Management Association. It's a great pleasure for me to welcome you all here at Government Engineering College IT Seminar Hall. Today it's a 63rd Rare Share session. It's a unique session with excellent learning of management and leadership. Today we have with us Mr. Sandeep Singh. He is Executive Director, Radiant Indus Chem Private Limited, and he will share his unique experience with us. And for this, going forward now, may I now welcome on the stage Mr. Sandeep Singh, Shri C.P. Tripathi sir from AMA, Dr. Sunil Deshpande sir, and Mr. Ravi Vaidya from the Board of Management of Government Engineering College. Now I will request Tripathi sir to extend formal welcome to Mr. Sandeep Singh. And I will request Dr. Sunil Deshpande to welcome Shri Ravi Vaidya. I will also request Dr. Deshpande sir to welcome father of Mr. Sandeep Singh, who is sitting right now in the first line of audience. So please. And I will request Mrs. Deshpande to please extend formal welcome to mother of Mr. Sandeep Singh.
Mrs. Deshpande.
Yes. Madam, just wait for a minute. I will request you to please welcome wife of Mr. Sandeep Singh. I will give a brief introduction of Mr. Sandeep Singh. His academics: BE Agriculture and Food Engineering from IIT Kharagpur, postgraduate diploma in management from IIM Ahmedabad. Professional career he began as a software engineer. Then he moved to account manager with Procter & Gamble, and now he is executive director Radiant Indus Chem. He has a lot of achievements and awards, wherein one of that is departmental topper at IIT. The notable things of Mr. Sandeep Singh is, the most important thing is he diversified the family business into a food processing business in 2009. And another important thing is he is always focusing on creativity. Won't take much of time, and I will request Mr. Sandeep Singh to share his rare news.
Ladies and gentlemen and students of the Government College of Engineering, welcome to the 63rd Rare Share. I am really humbled to be having given this opportunity and this invite by the Aurangabad Management Association, Mr. Satish Agarwal Tripathi sir, Sunil Deshpande ji. When I got this invite and I went to the website of the AMA, and I think got a list of lot of speakers who have spoken before me on this dais, and it made me all the more humble because of most of the speakers who have spoken before me have been outstanding achievers while I am still on my journey. Actually, in one of my slides, I've got the Murphy's Law in the slide, which says that if something can go wrong, it will go wrong and at the worst moment. So I think he's just kind of experiencing that, and I think it happens quite often with me. So anyway, while I was giving a thank you note to others, I would also like to specially mention the principal of the Government College of Engineering, Professor Ronald, and Professor Nikalje, who I think took extra pains to ensure that this session didn't get postponed, and it's happening as was the initial schedule. So thank you, sir, that we could be here. So normally I have seen these talks on success normally happen slightly later in life, when you feel that you really achieved something. But for me, success has been a journey, and I have crossed a few milestones, but I still think I have many more to go. And I'm always reminded of this famous poem by Robert Frost, Walking by the Woods on a Snowy Evening, and it ends with the lines, "The woods are lovely, dark and deep, and I have promises to keep, and miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep." So I think it aptly applies to me. So we'll go through the journey which I have taken so far. So the institutions on which my foundation has been built, my pillars, first and foremost, of course, my father, Mr. Asa Singh, my mother, Dr. Mrs. Jagdish Kaur Singh. I did most of my schooling in the Doon School, Dehradun, in boarding. Then I got the privilege of getting into IIT Kharagpur, and then definitely last but not the least, IIM Ahmedabad. So a bit about my father to give you an understanding of our upbringing and the values. So my father is the chairman of our existing company, Radiant Induschem Private Limited. He is truly a first generation entrepreneur, and we've only taken it a step further. He's had to overcome a lot of hardships of poverty, of partition. He's very senior and he's seen partition. He's had to move across borders, start from zilch and build the empire. He was always an A student, a college topper from ISM Dhanbad, a brilliant professional in the coal industry in a career spanning 25 years, and now he is a very successful entrepreneur. Just to give you an idea of his academic excellence, he always used to tell me that in maths you should get minimum 100% marks. And normally in the question paper, you have those questions, attempt any 5. So he would attempt all and he would write, you correct any 5. Through his actions, he instilled in us values of hard work, discipline, meritocracy, humility and social responsibility. I think he's been a Rotarian for the last 40 years and he's been involved in a lot of social causes. He's no doubt a very tough taskmaster, but he's also very loving at the same time. And he's a rock solid support and my best critique. Thank you. Coming to my point on this side. So my mother, okay, she too had to overcome, the entire family had to overcome the hardships of partition. Okay, she herself has been a brilliant, hardworking student, and I think at the time when she went to US for her MD in pathology, I think there were very few Indians who had actually taken that leap. When we moved to Aurangabad, she started her own laboratory at home so that she could look after the home as well as her career at the same time, and she built a very successful practice. She's been always enthusiastic, always willing to learn. I remember, although I'm not supposed to be disclosing her age, but still maybe a decade or two back, she actually thought of learning swimming. At that age, most of us would think of retirement, and she said, no, I have to go and learn swimming. And even today, being the religious person that she is, she still goes and takes classes for doing kirtan. So she's always willing, and that's kind of thing which has rubbed off a bit in us also. So she's also instilled in me the qualities of hard work, determination, and discipline. Coming to discipline, so actually, I think about 3-4 years back, I had gone to Bhopal, and I met one of my cousins in Bhopal. And that time I got to know my father was so disciplined that when his vehicle used to pass, people used to set their time. कि आशा सिंह जी जा रहे हैं मतलब अभी इतने बज गए होंगे. So that is how he used to follow the time. And my mom is always the emotional support. While my dad is a tough taskmaster, my mom is always a soft emotional support. So the initial years, I was born in 1977, and as per the AMA website, that's the same year the Aurangabad Management Association was formed. So my father moved to Aurangabad as a CEO of another company in 1978, and that's what actually brought us to Aurangabad. So up to my 3rd standard, I did my schooling in St. Xavier's School at N1, and when I was 8 years of age, I got selected in Mayo College, Ajmer, and so I left Aurangabad and went to Ajmer to Mayo College. That was the first competitive exam I cracked. I think I failed a couple before that for the other boarding schools, but that was the first competitive exam I cracked. It was the first time away from home, so it was difficult. I am sure some of you who moved out of home for the first time and come to college. When I was 8 years old, you can imagine what it must be going through life. But anyway, it was fun. I enjoyed my time. We made a lot of new friends, and the biggest learning was, trying to take care of yourself as an 8-year-old. The next stop, and a very important one, was at the Doon School, Dehradun. That's the image of the main building. So, when I was in Mayo, and you would normally register for these schools for admission, right when the kid was born. So, like I think when I must have been 1 or 2 years old, my dad must have registered me for the exam for taking entrance into the Doon School. So, around the time when I was 10 years old, we got the reminder from school that now your son is eligible for appearing for the Doon School exam. And so my mother and my brother, they came over to Mayo, and we prepared for the exam. We gave it, and I got selected in Doon at the age of 11. In Mayo, I had a very good time. But when I went to Doon, things didn't work out very well for me. I had a very tough time settling down. Emotionally, it was extremely draining. Adjusting to the kind of crowd. Most of the fellow students were from Delhi, very different culture. So I had a very tough time moving down, and I lost confidence. I kind of became isolated. I would get secluded. I would probably go and hide in some corner of school. It was a spread over 70 acres, so there's a lot of place to hide. And it was very draining at that time. But then, things started turning around in 10th. Actually, most of this negative cycle happens when you lose confidence, when you suddenly feel like your self-worth is kind of gone down and all. So, in the hostel I was in Oberoi House, we used to have a common area where you could come together, read newspapers, play table tennis, listen to music, play chess. So there used to be a chess board right in the center. And a lot of us used to spend, I think, at least 2.5 to 3 hours on the chessboard, playing with each other. And that made me, in my 10th standard, I reached the finals of the championship, but I lost. But the fact that I reached the finals was a very big turnaround point for me. Suddenly you start feeling good about yourself. The people around you, your teachers, your batchmates, your friends, they start looking at you positively कि इसमें कुछ तो है कि यहाँ तक पहुँचा. And in 12th, I finally went on to win the individual chess championship. So it was a full cycle, going down. You see, in boarding, a lot of times you look at your friends, around this time, my father had set up the chemical unit when he had started the business. This I'm talking about 88 to 90 period, and my father had set up the business in 1982. We began production in 1986, and he ran into rough weather. So he was really involved. So there was very little time my parents could actually come to Doon. So I would often find that my parents are not coming, दूसरे के आ रहे हैं. I didn't understand what is going on behind at home at that point of time. So it did take a toll on me, but like I said, when things started turning well, it turned out positive. There were of course many teachers. I think in all the institutions I have been, starting from St. Xavier's, Mayo, Doon, IIT, IIM, there have been a lot of teachers who have influenced me, who've taught me, who have made me what I am today. But for the paucity of time, I'll just speak about a few of them. The first one is Mr. Sukhdev Bhatia. Unfortunately, he is no more. But he was my first housemaster in Oberoi House, and his wife, Mrs. Bhatia, was our what's called the dame of the house. She was the house, the lady in charge of the house, who would take care of our personal life at the hostel. And he had a lot of, I think, belief in me, and that's the reason he eventually made me the house captain when I was in 12th. Mr. Piyush Malviya, he was a tutor, so in Doon, you've got a lot of, because kids are coming in now from 12 years old, in my time it was from 11. So they've got different systems. So you've got a housemaster, you've got a tutor who's more like a friend to you, who kind of advises you, supports you on an unofficial basis. You have your house dame who takes care of your clothing, your personal hygiene. That part of it comes under her, this thing. So I think Mr. Malviya was my go-to man. When I was having a tough time and things were not looking too good for me, he would always welcome me, support me. There were times when I got into trouble. Like I said, I used to go hiding because I wanted to avoid my batchmates. So once or twice I got pulled up and I was about to be punished with one of the seniors, severe punishments in school. But then he intervened and he kind of supported me. When I was in 12th, I had this teacher, Mr. Shashank Veera. He was also an ex-DOSCO. I mean, people from Doon School call us as DOSCO. So when we were in 12th and after the last physics class, he gave a very subtle point that don't let Doon be the end of your life. There was a tendency that you stick to your college mates only, you stick to your schoolmates only, even when you go on. But he said, don't let this be the end of your life. Always try to achieve more. And those words always keep resonating in my mind. Whenever I think I've reached a milestone, I always think of these words and I say I need to move on further. So while so Doon was actually a mixed bag. My initial years were tough, but I think my later half was a very good period. So Doon is being a boarding school, you spend your whole life there. So apart from academics, you take part in extracurriculars. Cricket, hockey, football were compulsory. So each one of us who passed out from the school have played it every year for about two months each. Okay, you could then take part in a lot of other sports and games which were available. So I was there in athletics and shot put and all. Like I said, chess I've already mentioned before. Now there's a big craze in Aurangabad for marathons, and the season is coming and it's going to start very soon again. So we used to have cross country at that time, where depending on whether you are from junior class, middle or senior, you would run 3 kilometer, 5 kilometer or 9 kilometer thing, and it was kind of again compulsory cross country part. We did a lot of treks, so every semester we would go for treks. I also did a cycling expedition when I was in 11. We did cycled about 400 kilometers in 5 days, from Dehradun to Nahan, right up to Dakshai, and then back to Panchkula and back to Doon. So the school gave us a lot of opportunities to take part in extracurriculars. In fact, even during our exam time, we used to have exam in the morning and the inter-house competition in the evening. So both the things had to happen at the same time. We got a lot of exposure to art, theatre, taking part in plays, debating. So Doon overall was a very good experience for overall development. At the same time, Doon also tried to make you money conscious. So right from the time you joined in 6th standard, you would have a bank account. It was a school bank, nothing got to do with the banks outside, but you would have a bank account where I think in my time it used to be 240 rupees you used to get for 4 months. So you had a checkbook, you could go to the bank, which was also manned by these students, and you could withdraw the amount. So you would get coupons. You would not get cash, but you would get coupons with which you could go to the tuck shop and all and buy things. After 10 till 9, you were not allowed to go on private outings. So private outing means I could go out on my own without any guardian or a parent coming to meet me. So after 10, you also have a concept of private outings, where you can go out on your own. And we used to get about 40 rupees for the outing, where we could do whatever we want from morning to evening. Of course, 40 rupees today doesn't feel like anything. At that time, it was quite a decent amount of money. So, like I said about treks, we would plan for midterms. So we would go for treks like I remember going to Kalka, Shimla trek, going to Dodital, going to Nagtikka. So these were 5-day breaks in the middle, and it was compulsory for students to go out and take part in these activities. And after you cross 10, or once you were in 10th standard, you would do your own budgeting. So we would budget like 600 rupees where you had to spend 5 days. That would include your bus travel, that would include your camping expenses, your food, and whatever you wanted to do. So our average budget was around 600 to 700 rupees for 5 days for these treks. So when you are working on a limited budget, it automatically got you to prioritize where you want to spend, where you don't want to spend. You could not spend lavishly, and although and you know, at that time Doon was not about royalty, it was always about a mixed bag. We had students, we had batchmates who were from very poor backgrounds as well, and who were on scholarships. So Government of India has scholarships for people who are like, let's say, very good in Hindi. So there were batchmates of mine who were excellent in Hindi when they came in Hindi, Sanskrit, and didn't know English at all. But by the time they passed out of Doon, they were masters in English as well. So Doon took care of that. Doon also was an initiation of my initiation into leadership roles. So I was the house captain. I was also captain of the house chess team, the first aid team, and because I was more scientifically inclined, so I was also the captain of the Shanti Swarup Science Essay competition. So when you were taking part in these activities, there was an tacit adoption of leadership skills in a student. One of the things I think my time in Doon taught me was resilience. You know, because my initial time was tough, and I had to spend a lot of time alone. I think that's what makes me a lonely person even today at times. I mean, I can spend a lot of time alone, and people could be wondering what's gone wrong with him, but I'm perfectly fine because of my initial training. I'm not talkative. You can talk to my wife over time. Okay, it taught me independence. Actually, I have been in boarding since I was 8 years old. So today, I feel myself I'm pretty independent, and I do have the capacity to stand alone. One big thing about Doon was about social service. So we had this concept of SUPW, which is the full form is socially useful productive work. So one part of it was compulsory, where students would do most of the activities themselves. Okay, I have only mentioned some of them in which I was involved in, but we had things like child education, where you would go and teach children of economically backward classes, or sometimes even your own people, your support staff at school, you would teach their children. Okay, you had adult education, where you would go out and even teach elders who were illiterate but were now willing to learn. Then you had within the thing like audiovisual squad, so all this AV and all was managed by students. The chair squad, so you want to organize chairs for the function, the students would go and lay it out and pick it up at the end of the day. So these kind of things of doing the job yourself got the, imbibed in the student and Doon itself. And then we were also taught about being socially conscious. Unfortunately, there was an earthquake in 1993 in Latur, and it was quite a disaster actually. And we got the opportunity to go out there, stay there for 10 days at Kilari, which was the epicenter, and we were really able to contribute. So like this unfortunate incident happened in September, and we went in December. That was our vacation time. So we went in vacations to Latur, and it was even after 3 months, it was a very sad state and very unfortunate tales you got to hear. You know, normally the walls of the houses were, kachi, they were not made of proper bricks and all. And when the earthquake happened, most of the people ran out of their houses as the natural this thing. And the walls collapsed on the outside. And most of the people got trapped there. So I think it was a huge massacre of people. When we went, there was no hygiene, there was no toilet facility, drinking water proper facility. So the job which we did out there was constructing a drainage system for the village. We dug the entire drainage system, we built toilets for them, we built a water tank within that span. So it kind of keeps you grounded right from your schooling time, that you have to also give back to the society and take care of the underprivileged. So the fall and the rise, as I call it. So my 10th standard, like I said, my academic performance in the initial years was very poor. But in 10th, I surprisingly did reasonably well for my expectations. Okay, I got about 89%, and that time I remember my father-in-law, if you got 89 now, I think in 12 you will at least get about 95. But however, it didn't go that way. Okay, I kind of, towards the end, I became more confident, I became lax, or whatever you may call it. And the net result of my exam was, my father was, the day my result came out, my father was actually traveling to Bombay. So normally I'm used to getting a good scolding from my dad whenever things go wrong. At least it happened till then. Every time my results would come from school, and I would know that my result has come. And it would be like just me and my dad in the room, mom sent out, the room locked, and it was between me and my dad. But this time, surprisingly, nothing of that happened. So the whole day passed. In the evening, I went to drop him. He was boarding the bus. And the words he said was, "You disappointed me." They had a deep impact on me. Actually, I was myself not happy that I have not done too well. Not that I did too bad, I got an 80%. But from an 89, it had gone down to an 80. So that was a kind of a disappointment. And I got admission to one of the engineering colleges in Maharashtra. Although I was from Aurangabad, but I was doing my schooling in Dehradun. So under the Maharashtra admission laws at that time, I was an outsider, and I was considered for the balance 30% seats. So I got an admission to a college in Bombay. So two things happened, Once I remember, I was standing in the line for collecting the admission form. There was a fellow student in front of me, and he was like really crying, like, "I've done very poor, and I thought, yeah, he might have done worse than me also." So I tried kind of consoling him. It doesn't matter, it's not the end and all that. So then I asked him, "Okay, by the way, how much have you got?" He said, "I got 95%. So I really didn't know what to say after that. The second thing that happened when I got the admission in the college, so my dad said, "Why don't you and your brother go and actually see the college before you, fill in the joining form." So we went to the college. So it was a relatively new college, but I got chemical engineering in that, and that time I wanted to do chemical because we had a chemical industry. So we asked some of the students who were there, "So how often do you come?" And he said, "College कौन आता है? अभी तो हमारा वाइवा इसलिए हम आए हैं." तो अच्छा, then we met the principal and we said, "नहीं, आप तो second batch हो chemical engineering के, आपको क्या problem है? अगर lab नहीं है, tension तो first year वालों को लेनी चाहिए, आप तो second batch हो." So that was it. So then I decided, okay, I'll definitely get such a college again next year. So let me drop a year and prepare for IIT. I had wanted to prepare, but being in Doon, being with all the extracurriculars and all, there was not really much time where you could prepare for IIT. So this time when this happened with me, I said, let's give it a shot. At the most, I will lose a year, but let's prepare for IIT. So when I was preparing the presentation, I think the image that came to my mind was of a slingshot or of a catapult. So in a catapult, you kind of come back a bit before you go in front. So although normally dropping a year is considered as a backward step, and a lot of people have that inhibition that should I drop a year, should I take that risk. So for me, it was like going back before it launched me into a different trajectory for the future. So I dropped a year. I prepared in Aurangabad. That time in Aurangabad, you didn't have so many coaching classes. Today, you've got plenty. At that time, there were hardly any college coaching classes for IIT. There were hardly any teachers, but yes, I did get, there was a teacher, physics teacher, Mr. Lakar. He taught me physics, he guided me. There were some other teachers as well who guided me in some subjects. So finally, yes, I did make it to IIT Kharagpur, and I got admission in Agriculture and Food Engineering department. So my All India rank was 1592. Not good enough for chemical. That time there were only 4 IITs, right? There were not so many as there are today. So the number of seats were far less, and I think ranking ही सिर्फ 2000 तक निकलती थी. 2000 or 2400 तक का ही rank निकलता था. So 1592 was in the middle. So I opened the Agriculture and Food department, but I finally made it to the IIT. And for me, the best thing was my dad was still. Yeah. Finally. It was a huge boost to self-confidence. When you make it to such a milestone, it naturally makes you feel even better. And especially when you've got distinguished alumni like Tripathi sir, who's also from IIT Kharagpur, you feel great when you get into such an institute. So IIT Kharagpur, that's the main building. Yeah, it is the oldest IIT. Started in 1956, and they were the golden years of my life. I'm sure some of the senior engineering college students of this institute would also be feeling that their college time has been the best time. But there was an interesting fact about Kharagpur. Did you know at one time it has the longest railway platform in the world? Till 2013, it had the distinction of being the longest platform in the world. Every time I would come back from vacation, so the length of the platform was very nicely and prominently displayed at the Kharagpur railway station, at least in my time. And every time you would come back from vacation, we would find an increased length on the thing. But I think somehow they ran out of space by 2013, and now today Gorakhpur is the longest platform in the world. So naturally, after what happened in 12, I was determined that now I have to do well, both in academics and extracurriculars. I think it makes a big difference when you want to do well rather than when you are being told to do well. So I think till 12, my parents were telling me to do well, and once I got into IIT, I wanted to do well. So it came from within me, and I think that was a big difference. So from the first year, I was the department topper, and I was awarded the Institute Silver Medal for that. But apart from this thing, I was involved in a lot of extracurriculars as well. So I represented, because I had been playing hockey in Doon, when I came into IIT, I represented IIT at intra-IIT hockey. Because of my size, my seniors naturally thought I should be doing weightlifting. So they pushed me to the gym. I went also and I started doing weightlifting. And of course, chess was our favorite. There were a lot of elections in IIT, and my first experience with elections, and now that I think of all the elections which happen for the state and central governments, it's kind of a mini model of that, what happens in Kharagpur. Of course, you don't have the dirty politics of the outside parties in that, but within the school campus itself, there's a lot of politics and everything. So in my second year, because from first year I was doing weightlifting, in second year I became the weightlifting secretary. I was in charge of the gym, and we used to organize weightlifting competition, bodybuilding competition, powerlifting competition. In third year I became general secretary sports and games. So all these sports and all came under me. There used to be two of us who were general secretaries, and I was one of them. And in my final year I became the hall president, so the in charge of my hostel. The unique thing for me, and I'm not sure how many people in Kharagpur have had that distinction, is that to all the three posts I went unopposed. So no one stood against me. So this actually image depicts a very unique way in which IIT Kharagpur celebrates Diwali. So instead of bursting crackers, we have what we call an ELU competition. It's not I love you, it's elimination competition. Okay, we used to call it ELU. And each hostel used to develop a theme. And on the chattais, we used to tie the diyas, and these are lights from the diyas. There is no electrical lighting in this. What you see on the image below you are some of the students who are actually lighting the diyas. Okay. So the student in Kharagpur, actually there is nothing much apart from IIT, and it's also the headquarters of the Southeastern Railway. Okay, so by default, if you wanted to do anything apart from academics, you had to take part in the college curriculums, and there were plenty. I mean, Kharagpur is spread over 1,500 acres. Okay, I think my department alone, I think it must be bigger than the Government College of Engineering because of its own. Let's say we had our own farming and everything. So it was huge. So by default, most of the students who take this such an activity, illumination. I mean, imagine you have to light 20,000 diyas within a span of 10 minutes. So like you would get a signal that the judges are leaving the previous hostel, they're about to leave the previous hostel, and you would begin lighting the diyas. And it used to be huge structures. And there were multiple tables layered up. So you would begin lighting from top, removing tables, and everything had to be cleared within 10 minutes. So it was quite a task, and it could not be accomplished without most of the hostel students actually taking part in that. So such kind of activity actually helped bind together the student community and get them together. And naturally, those who took more part in it, for them it was also an opportunity to develop leadership skills, networking. I mean, when you pass out of any college, you pass out of any school. Today, I think every school, every college has a very strong alumni association. So I think when you take part in such activities, you get to know others, and it automatically becomes a networking platform for the future. And you develop teamwork skills, because you have to plan out, you have to see how you are going to dismantle the pyramid of tables as you are going to go down, after lighting the diyas. So these are some of the things. There are many other things, but I can't keep talking about it. I mean, fantastic years at Kharagpur. Of course, anyone goes to IIT for technical knowledge. So the first learning is, of course, the technical knowledge, whatever the professors taught us. The second thing was about multitasking. Because I was involved in a lot of extracurriculars, so I had to balance. Like I remember at 5 a.m. my senior used to wake me up. He would come to my door, knock, and say, "Sandy, Urja." I was called Sandy because my name is Sandeep. And my job was then, when I was in my second year, I was the junior most in the hostel. I mean, second year. First year I had a separate hostel. So he would say, "Sandy, Urja," and I had to get up. And then I had to go waking up all the members of the hockey team. So you would go first, wake up all the members of the hockey team, then you would go do hockey, then go for classes, then come back in the evening, do your gym, because weightlifting would happen simultaneously, and then in the night, prepare for ELU. So you would get up at 5 and you would actually be sleeping at 1:32. So you would hardly be getting any sleep, and you would be doing all sorts of multitasking. But it was fun, because it was voluntary. I think the biggest difference that I found about IIT when I went from Doon was simplicity. I mean, पहली बार मैंने देखा कि आप कोई भी कलर की शर्ट, कोई भी कलर की पैंट, रबर चप्पल के साथ पहन के कॉलेज में घूम सकते हो. I mean, engineers don't care a damn about fashion, don't care a damn about anything. I mean, it was like totally different from Doon. Doon was about, being properly dressed, and everything, and IIT was like as simple as you could get. our professors used to come on cycles. We all had Atlas cycles, no fancy cycle, because Kharagpur was such a, I don't know sir, after time maybe वो था या नहीं? Cycle. So in our time also it was cycle. Then you would buy an Atlas cycle and you would walk around, move around in that. Our professors, our teachers would come in that. Of course, I think things started changing a bit when the fifth pay commission came in, and I think that's when the salaries actually moved up and we saw some of our professors coming in. But I don't know how it impacted the students, because I think आगे जाके देखा तो बाइक्स भी आने लग गई. But हमारे टाइम में तो साइकिल ही थी. So very simple life. I mean, Kharagpur was as simple as you could get, and I think that was the thing which I really loved about that place. So, like I said earlier, you know, once that thing comes into you that you want to start doing well, and you start doing well, it's like a natural generator within you. So once you start doing well, you always want to do well. So the challenge is to get yourself to start doing good in something. Need not be academics only, it could be anything. Like for me, it started with chess. But once you start doing good in something, then you just want to carry on because it builds on your self-worth. So that was a actually, this line was got to do with ragging. It's not a very good word to speak in a college. But I mean, I don't support ragging. But I think that the people who were most tough to me in those initial, in Kharagpur we used to have it for only about 15 days when we moved to hostel. It was not a year through thing. But in those 15 days, and it was not ragging, actually it was interaction. Okay, intense interaction. No, I'll come to it also, I'll explain. You know, the guys who were the most tough to me in those 15 days became my best friends. In fact, one of my dearest friends is actually 2 years senior to me. मतलब वो 15 दिन के बाद आप उसको मुंह पे गाली दे सकते थे, आप कुछ भी कर सकते थे, and he would be like your equal. Once those 15 days were over. But those 15 days were intense. You know, we had to, it was not about hitting, it was not about torturing, it was about getting to know the people in the hall. So there was a thing called score. You had to keep a score. उस 15 दिन में you had to know the room number, the name, the department और वो बंदा कहाँ से आया है. ठीक है, ये चीज़ें अगर आपको चारों चीज़ें पता है एक स्टूडेंट के बारे में तो आपका स्कोर 1 हो गया. And like that you have to keep a score. तो जिसका जितना ज़्यादा उतना अच्छा. So you know, I still remember one of my batchmates had a name KVSK Narayan, and I still remember it today. It was Kovalli Venkat Srinivas Kameshwar Narayan. That is the name which is like ingrained in my mind since that day. You know, I had to remember. You had to know your background. The other thing was, because you were all getting in pressure. So as you might have read in one of your courses, that when there is intense pressure in the medium, particles tend to get close together. Okay, so naturally our bags started getting close together. You know, and we got to know each other and you built relationship because you were trying to build a system against some foreigner who were your seniors. Unfortunately, when I became a senior, the things reversed. So being a Sardar, I was very easily identifiable. ठीक है, तो जो बच्चे आते थे काउंसलिंग के लिए, so in counseling you would counsel them कि भाई ये डिपार्टमेंट ले, you know, do this and all. And then they would eventually join Kharagpur, and I would ask them, do you know me? That's how the things used to start. So the senior would assume if he knows you, then you don't touch him. If he doesn't know you, then you enjoy it. Okay, so I would ask, do you know me? He'll say yes. I said, how come? So we had met you in counseling. So I was like, okay. So anyway, so like I said, there's a pros and cons. I don't support ragging, so please don't quote me for that. But I think this is in general true. I have in my life later on, I have interacted with bosses in companies, and I think the toughest bosses become your biggest supporters. This is a universal truth not only in college, but it's also true in companies. In companies you don't get ragged, but the managers, but your seniors who are tough with you also support you the most when you get into trouble. During IIT, we all do our internships at the end of 3rd year. So I did mine in Cadbury's. And when I started my own, later on, when I went on to start my own food business, I think my internship at Cadbury gave me an idea of kind of what a factory should be like. Mr. Agarwal is not there today. In fact, in my second year, my father used to always push that every vacation you should go for training. So in my second year, I actually did an internship in Naz Seafood. So the question was, after IIT, what next? Was it to go abroad for higher studies or was it to do a job? Because I was the topper, by default, everyone assumed I will go abroad for MS. And all my professors also advised me the same. So they said, go abroad, do MS, go on to get PhD, etc. But I was always clear that I wanted to do business. Right from the beginning, I somehow, the thing that I want to do business, I was clear that if I go abroad, I will India वापस नहीं आऊँगा. So that's why I ruled out going abroad as an option. And I said, okay, because I want to do my own business, so let me try and get into a management degree in future. And from what I had heard from seniors, what I had read in books, if you get some practical work ex before you get into an MBA course, you will understand the concepts of MBA better. So during IIT, I got selected in Aditi Technologies. It was a campus selection, and it was the first IT company which allowed non-IT background students to sit for the exam. So when I say IT background, there used to be computer science, they used to allow electronics, electrical. Others were considered, that Varna system, and you would go down. So this was the first company which said that, okay, even if you're not from computer science, you can sit for the exam. Because all of us were taught IT courses. The thing about IIT was that most of the students after passing out would get into IT companies only. Because the departmental companies thought that the students will not stick on. So they didn't prefer to come to IIT at our time to recruit. So tractor companies and all, they came a bit very late in the placement process when they felt that the people who were likely to leave have already got placed. And once you got placed in a company, you were out of the placement process. I think that must pretty much be the case here as well. So it was the first IT company which allowed us to sit, got selected in it, moved to Bangalore. So in 2 years I was in Bangalore. So I got exposed to the world of IT. College में तो हमें उस वक्त C सिखाते थे, programming in C, programming in basic. Then when we moved on, we learned C++, Java, cloud computing. Now I think there are a lot of advanced things. Some of these might sound very outdated to you. Okay. So anyway, for that time, for the batch of students of us who got recruited from different IITs and different top colleges like Delhi College of Engineering and all, so we were all together trained in these concepts. Aditi was actually considered a body shop for Microsoft. The CEO of Aditi, the owner, was actually an ex-Microsoft employee. So people naturally assumed that going to Aditi means going to Microsoft. Okay, but around the time when I came in, things changed, and besides window-based platform, Aditi started focusing on Java platform, which was different, and that's the division I got moved in. And we got a project from a company based in US in Seattle. Now set-top boxes are very common. At that time, set-top boxes were hardly there. It used to be mostly cable TV, and we were writing the software for the set-top box. The big thing was I learned to cook in Bangalore. Okay, because that was the first time, when we went to Bangalore, initially we were thrilled. Like, you get decent salary, you got a lot of disposable income, every day you go out to eat, every day you are wondering. There was a time when we thought कि अब आज कहाँ खाना खाने जाएं. We would come out of office and we would stand and we would discuss, यार यहाँ खा लिया, वहाँ खा लिया, अब कहाँ जाए. Finally we said, let's forget all this. We bought all the kitchen thing, and me and my partner, we said, let's cook. So that was a good 2-3 hour job every day, and it kind of helped me learn cooking. So I would ask my mother, अच्छा आलू बनानी है, चिकन बनाना है, उसका रेसिपी तो है, so it kind of helped. When you go abroad, this happens by default because you want to learn. Because of the software project which I was doing, I got an opportunity to go to US on a short stint. The reason I wrote short is because that year I wanted to appear for CAT, and when this opportunity came, I told my company I have to appear for CAT. So I cannot go for too long. But I think I was one of the few who knew the entire software end-to-end very well. So they said, you go, you will be able to do it in a short time. I happened to reach Seattle on 7th September, and 9/11 is history, which you all know. Okay, and I was working with a company which had a TV on every workstation because it was a TV software company, etc. So when I went in, I mean, I didn't realize the seriousness or the implication of what had happened at the World Trade Center. You know, it sunk in much later. But when I went to the office and I saw the reaction of the people, it was something I think which, for most Americans, was something which hit them out of the blue. I mean, India, Pakistan was something I think most of the Americans didn't even know till then. You know, so when I went, it was this thing. Then, you know, when I would go on the weekends in Seattle, I would go down. Actually, a lot of Sikhs had problem on the East Coast. I was on the West Coast. So on the East Coast, a lot of Sikhs had they were perceived as Muslims, and, you know, unnecessarily a hate crime happened. In this part of the country it was okay, but there were still people who thought I was a Muslim, and, you know, they would come and approach me, you know, talk about India, Pakistan, what do you think should be done? And when I was coming back and I interacted with people at the airport, that's the time I realized that probably now Americans are actually waking up to the reality of what terrorism is and what we go through. But it was, I think, something which shook them. For me personally, going to US was the first international exposure I remember. I think I've gone as a very small kid with my mother, but I don't remember that. I was a few months old. But this stint I remember. When I came back from US in 5 weeks, I had to prepare for CAT, and I had to do my job as well. So I would get up at 4:30, okay, give a test paper, then solve it, correct it, analyze it, and then go to the factory at about 9 o'clock. And by the time I would come back, it would be 8 in the night, and actually I would be exhausted and I would go to sleep. So this was my routine as soon as I came back. So I came back in October, CAT was in December, and I think for all the time it was like that. I of course enrolled in some coaching classes as well, like INS and all. They had their weekend test papers where I could benchmark myself versus the rest of India. This is just, I think this slide I made more from the college students' perspective, that if some of you are preparing for CAT, I think you should, I focused on strategy, accuracy and speed in that order. So CAT is not just about solving the paper and getting over with. You have to know what to attempt and what not to attempt, especially engineers. हमारी इज्जत आ जाती है अगर आप एक मैथ्स का प्रॉब्लम नहीं सॉल्व कर पाए तो. And we just attempt to, we have to solve that problem, and we end up wasting a lot of time in the math section, in the fonts. You just got to know, leave it for the time being, come back to it later. So you got to make a strategy, you got to know what's good for you, what's not good for you. You need to focus on accuracy. In my time there was negative marking as well. So there was no fun, random tukka maar diya. You had to know the answer. And then by practicing you would build on speed. So I think I did a reasonably good job of it. That time there were 6 IIMs, and I got calls for all the 6 IIMs. When I came out of the paper, and the same thing happened to me for IIT as well, if I remember. People came out, अरे इस बार तो कट ऑफ बहुत हाई जाएगा, अरे क्या easy paper था. And I came out and I am like, यार मेरा तो बहुत खराब किया, मैंने तो बहुत कम question answer किए. But then when this happened, I said maybe I was on the right track. Okay. I gave interviews for 5 IIMs because with one IIM, unfortunately my date repeatedly clashed with other IIMs. I gave interviews for 5, I got selected in 5, and I chose IIM Ahmedabad to give interviews. So now life at IIM Ahmedabad, first year is crazy. First year is actually very different when you come from an engineering college and you land up in IIM. It's like being thrown into a pot of boiling water. Every day from day 1 you are on fire. Okay, engineering college is like 4 mahine masti, 1 hafta padhai. IIM is the total opposite. Raghuram Rajan, the former RBI governor, also happens to be a distinguished alumni of IIM Ahmedabad. And in one of his convocation speeches a couple of years back, he said if you can survive the first term at Ahmedabad, you can survive almost anything. That's the kind of pressure that's there. Like I said, in engineering, like even in IIT, you could get away mostly with last moment of studies. Okay, even though we were regular, and personally I was very regular with my classes, but in IIT the structure is defined. You know your courses, you know कि exam paper कैसे आएगा. You can kind of this thing. At IIT you can't. At IIM you can't do anything. IIM is about every day preparation. You had to read about 150 to 200 pages every day. You had to analyze for different subjects. So actually classes तो 3-4 ही होती थी दिन में. तो जब टाइम टेबल मिला, we were like, wow, it's like so simple, just 3 classes a day. You know, IIT we had about 6-7 periods in line, and going from one department to the other to attend the courses. And I am like 3 classes, 4 classes, that's it. But then when the course started, you realized actually it was hell of a lot. Because for each course, each class, you had to read about 100 pages. You had to analyze. You had to do the study yourself and in groups. So Ahmedabad had a lot of culture of group working. So within a class, 4-5 students would be in one group, 4-5 in another. And together you had to prepare, solve the case study, give a presentation like I am giving right now, the next day in front of the whole class. And the professor would then teach you what you've done right or wrong. So it was more not like a classroom ki, you know, you are being taught and you are just noting down. You do your own study and then come for the presentation. So apart from the classwork training, IIM also has internship, industrial exposure. We used to have a lot of projects with companies and NGOs, and there was actually, even to bag a project, you had to form teams and you had to make a presentation. So like for example, I did a project with Radio Mirchi, and this I am talking of in 2003. At that time, most of the radio FM channels were not in the news segment and all, and so it was more about, you know, what they should get into in future. So even to get that project, you had to compete within the student group. So like about 10 groups will make a presentation to Radio Mirchi, and they would decide which group they want to work with. Then there was another thing called SOMA, where you would work with NGOs, and you would work with them to develop solutions for them. But it was all competitive. It was not given to you. You had to compete and get it. And like I said, through case studies. So for me, in IIM Ahmedabad especially, it's all about general management. So if you see the degree is postgraduate diploma in general management. Okay, there is no specialization like normally you hear MBA marketing, MBA HR, MBA finance. So it was nothing like that. It was about general management, and the electives you chose in the second year determined your future course of action. So I chose marketing and strategy because I wanted to get into business, and I thought a company can only survive if it has sales. There was a very interesting course called LEM, Laboratory in Entrepreneurial Motivation. It was taught by Professor Sunil Anda, who at one time founded the Core Group in Ahmedabad, one of the big pharmaceutical companies at one time. And he always used to motivate students to do your own business rather than getting a job. So these are some of the pictures, and you also have, like you can see some of the photographs of Mr. Kurian. So we were taken to different courses like Amol and all. The significant influencers at Ahmedabad, Professor N. Ravichandran, he used to teach us operations management, and Professor Abhinandan Jain. He had been with IIM Ahmedabad for 50 years, and he was an ace marketing guru. IIM, we lived by the theory: work hard, party harder, play harder and party the hardest. Literally it was like that. You would handle stress, work against stiff deadlines, handle multiple priorities. All this while we used to have dance parties going on through the night. During Dandiya, we would go to other colleges and play Dandiya. And we had a lot of college events within the campus itself. So it was all about multiple priorities. During my campus, I got into P&G, okay, Procter & Gamble, and I was selected in their CBD function, which is Customer Business Development, or Sales, as it is known in most other companies. Mr. Rajesh Sani was my first boss at P&G, and I think he had a very deep impact on what I have learned about sales and marketing. He gave me a lot of freedom. I was handling the entire Eastern UP, 23 districts. So it taught me about rural marketing, interior markets. You were handling districts like Banaras, Allahabad, Devariya, Basti, Renuku, Balia, which are like really interiors territories. PNG taught me about systems and processes. In the second year, because I did reasonably well in Banaras, there was an opportunity in Bombay and the company shifted me to Bombay. Bombay was a very different market in contrast. I mean, Banaras and all were interior markets, while Bombay was a full metro market. In Banaras, in one outlet, you would find 7-8 products of PNG. When you came to Bombay, in one outlet, you had about 80-90 products of PNG. So it was a very, very different market, very different learning. And my biggest learning was the modern trade, things like Big Bazaar, D-Mart, Hypercity. These kind of outlets I learned to handle when I got transferred to Bombay. In 2007, I moved back to Aurangabad. Moved back to join my family business. It was homecoming at the age of 30. Normally people go out at 25, 30. For me, it was coming back. When we came back, naturally, the question was what more can we diversify in? At that time, it was not a pre-planned thing that I would start food, right? So we looked at a lot of opportunities, power generation, construction chemicals. We looked at a lot of options. And finally, so that's my elder brother. He is the MD of the company, a fatherly figure who's always believed in me through these 10 years. He left his promising career in Merchant Navy to join my father at the time of starting. And it is their sweat and their effort that they laid the foundation for what I could build on when I diversified into the food business. And we started a company called Foodrite India Private Limited in 2008. I started the company with a vision to be one of the most respected food companies in India, known for its innovation and product quality, the reach of its sales and distribution network, and the quality of its team. Some of the key decisions we took at the time of starting was that we wanted to get into the right kind of products. So right meant, health benefits, nutritional benefit. But then we said that for that, creating a distribution channel will be difficult. So let us begin with the regular products. Right? So that we can build a distribution and then we will get into the right kind of products. Because of my PNG background, the natural inclination was to get into retail products. To differentiate from the competition, at that time competition was in 1 or 2 categories. And we said what makes us different was that we will get into 6-7 categories, bring in the best products across categories to differentiate us so that a retailer or a customer can buy a big basket from a single supplier. We decided to get our products manufactured on contract. Now, actually, initially during the time when we were forming Foodrite, me and my father, we went to we visited a lot of factories across Maharashtra. Most of them were shut down, food processing. And the key challenge we asked all of them was why. They said it's the marketing. Marketing of the product is the key challenge. Why most of the food units shut down. They said production we can do. Production is not an entry barrier. The barrier is the marketing. So we said let's focus on marketing while the production gets taken care of by someone else. We wanted to be sure about our quality. So we said we will have a production supervisor in each factory. We do our production in. I mentioned Murphy's Law in the beginning of the presentation. So it says that nothing is as easy as it looks. Being from IIM, having good experience in Excel sheet, I had a very nice projection of how the company would grow. And it looked very nice and rosy. So nothing is actually as easy as it looks. Everything takes longer than you expect. And if anything can go wrong, it will at the worst possible moment. We just experienced that in the beginning. Right, so we had actually planned to launch in Feb 2009 because we wanted to start with sherbet squashes and crushes category, which is a seasonal category mainly sold in summer. So we wanted to launch it in Feb. Unfortunately, we first had a hiccup with the PET bottles production, with the manufacturing side, which caused the delay. Then the contract manufacturer is a very big company in Nasik, and they were doing job work for Parle at that time. They were making Fruity and Happy. So we had tied up with them that they would do our production, but unfortunately when we went to them, Parle withdrew. So we were their sole customer. So they had a huge setup and we had negligible volumes. So it was a big mismatch. So due to the delays, it was very critical. So we managed to launch the product in March end, and by the time we spread across Maharashtra, it was mid-May. So normally from a consumption point of view, May and June are the best months for the squash category and the sharbat category because of peak summer months. But from a purchasing cycle point of view, the cycle begins in mid-Feb and it kind of finishes by April end. So there was a mismatch when we did. While launching, we did sampling with each outlet. So we went, हर एक जगह पे हमने शरबत बनाया, पिलाया, बोला कि पहले आप ये भरोसा करो, फिर हमारा प्रोडक्ट रखो बेचने के लिए. Because that's the only way you can convince the customer in food. You have to do sampling. So that went well. But unfortunately, because we were late, so we had missed the major buying cycle. So along the year, we launched jams, mayonnaise in July, culinary sauces like ketchup, pizza, pasta and all in November, Chinese sauce in December. Now because we were having issue with the Nasik factory, we had to find smaller factories to do our job. And for each of the categories, we actually ended up going to a separate factory. So by the end of it, I was present across 5 factories, present across 300 kilometers, and each factory had its own set of challenges, be it infrastructure, manpower, utility. It was quite a nightmare and operational, nightmare getting all the things, supply chain to work together. We had to supply the stock, get it manufactured, and then move the finished stock to the end customer. So it became quite a big logistical nightmare. Food products are a time bomb. And the reason why I say that is because they have an expiry period, they have a best before period. The product which gets manufactured today has got a limited shelf life. If it's not sold within that shelf life, it has to be thrown away. Right? But today consumers are far more sensitive. When we go to the market, we take up a product, we see ये कब बना था, then we see a competing product, वो कब बना था, and then we say अरे ये 3 महीना पुराना है, ये तो 2 महीना पुराना है, So even though it's only 3 months old and the shelf life may be 12 months, the product still gets rejected because there is a fresher stock available of some other product. So while we were launching Jan, the Sharbat stock actually started coming back from the market. Okay, so we had to take back our stock because the usual practice with this category is that जो भी बिकेगा नहीं वो company वापस लेगी. ठीक है? So it was like a big shocker for us. We learned it the hard way that in foods, the product acceptability is a very slow process, and I remember a few years ago I was listening to an interview of one of the senior brand development managers at Nestle, and she said it takes a generation to build a brand. So she said when I was small and I was having Maggi, my mother used to think, what is this? She's having junk food. But today when I am the mother, I am okay with my kid eating Maggi because I was eating when I was a kid. So it took a full generation for me to actually accept the product very well. So in food, brand acceptability is a challenge. Then like I said, we had challenges of product offtake, low brand awareness, low trial, and the net result was we had to suffer huge losses. When you are going through the cycle chain and if products are coming back, then you have payment issues, distributors, close operations. We launched on a big scale because I was from P&G, so I knew what kind of outlet coverage I can have. My biggest mistake was I started with a very big team. And so because of the big team, the positive side was that the product had a very good reach. There was a time when I was covering nearly 33,000 outlets in Maharashtra. Okay. But when these things started backfiring, it hit me equally hard because the fixed overhead cost. So at the end of the first year, the business was in ICU. Put it mildly. So my biggest learning is begin small and then scale up. Okay, for me that's the biggest learning from the first year. In second year, we started consolidating our production activities. So I kind of took up a factory on rent. Although it was technically contract manufacturing, but we ran the operations. It was 500 kilometers from Aurangabad at a place called Khed in Ratnagiri district. We changed our business model. We realized retail is a long-term game. And it's a game in which we are going to bleed heavily. So we said let's change our tactic and we moved from retail sales to institution sales. Today 80% of our sales comes from institution sales. Modern trade we had started in September 2009 and we continue to do it. The biggest and the most painful step for me was reduction of team size. When I started the company, because I was from P&G, a lot of my colleagues who had worked with me either on roll or off roll at P&G decided to join me in my venture. But when I had to let go of them, because when they saw the company is not doing well, the sales are not happening, it was very painful because it was a personal touch. At the end of second year, the sales were growing, but they were fluctuating. We expanded from Maharashtra to Chhattisgarh. And the biggest thing was, I started this company with a friend of mine actually, who was my batchmate in IIT and IIM. He decided to quit at the end of second year. He said the future doesn't look good. He didn't say that, he made up another reason, but I think it was effectively this. So at that time, I think my biggest learning was I got to stay positive because we had invested heavily in the business and we had to take it forward. My father stepped in his role a bit to fill the gap. At Kade, we doubled our production till the plant reached the capacity. It was not our factory, so we didn't want to invest heavily in that. We expanded to multiple states. The losses continued but reduced significantly as we moved. And finally, in 2013, we shifted our operations to Shendra MIDC. So now our food factory is in Shendra MIDC. In 2013, we amalgamated our food unit with Radiant officially. So the company name now is Radiant and the food unit is Unit 2 of the Radiant. We started construction in 2012. This is the inauguration photo from 2013. That time the Canara Bank manager inaugurated our factory to one of the main bankers. Since the time the journey started in 2013, our sales have grown 35% year on year, CAGR. Okay, now we have presence across major cities in India. Our production has increased 7 times a month from what it was 6 years ago. And we have had to do additional construction activities 4 times to sustain and create infrastructure to fuel our growth. The company is FSSC certified, we got a 10-acre plot. Current capacity is 2,000 tons per month and we've already crossed about 1,300. It's fully equipped with the labs, with the water plant, with the cold storage, so we've got all the infrastructure. During the journey, I think recent 2 shocks which happened, demonetization and GST did impact us. Although it was not a direct impact because for us, demonetization didn't impact directly. But what it is, it disturbed the wholesale market. And that is how we got impacted because most of our sale was happening through wholesale. So for a marginal player like me who was barely surviving, it was a big hit. So for the bigger companies, it was not for a big hit. A lot of smaller guys closed down. For them, it was a big shock. But for us, we managed to survive, but it was nevertheless a speed breakup. GST is a very good thing, a very positive step. But the only reason why I written it as a speed breaker is because it happened back to back. It happened too quickly after demonetization and it created the second shock. The future challenges as I see it is maintaining the sales growth. Competition is more aggressive, you've got to respond more quickly to the competition now. Managing the margins is an issue because government has changed some of the policies. It's fixed minimum price now for sugar. It has increased the import duty in oil, some of the 2 major raw materials for me. Rainfall in this part of the country is pretty erratic, as you know. Either बहुत ज़्यादा होती है या बहुत कम होती है. Either of them damages the agricultural crop. And I think a key challenge is going to be managing talent and scaling up the operations. Finally, the food unit did turn profitable last year after a 10-year struggle. I think my learning from the last phase is believe in yourself, stay positive, be open to new ideas and suggestions, be quick and decisive and invest in your team and yourself. Like I said, we also believe in giving back to the society. So we have been supporting the Anna Mitra Foundation, which provides midday meals to children. Asta Foundation by Dr. Vaidya, which provides training to low-income group for taking care of elderly people. And there is another trust, Quality Education Support, which supports tribal children in Palghar area. We had tied up with Innerweave to do the project of Fridge Annapurna. Nikita is here, she was the president at the time when we started doing it. And the idea was about feeding the hungry with dignity. So you will see like this fridge is outside Farm Foods near Reliance Supermarket, and there is another fridge which is near Hotel Panchwati at Trimurti Chowk. So the idea is we have kept these fridges, whatever is left over either of the restaurant or from the houses of the surrounding residents, they can go and keep the food. A lot of times when we go to restaurant and we eat, सब्जियां बच जाती हैं, अगर हम छोड़ देते हैं तो वो डस्टबिन में ही जाती हैं. You can take the food, put it in the fridges, and the poor people can come and just take the food from here. right? So that was, okay, you guys are areas, if you want to put it in your colony, do get in touch, so we'll be happy to do that as well. Yeah, thank you God, I think none of this would happen without him. He's been kind to me. You know, there were times when I wondered why I was going through what I went through, especially in my tough times. Even in entrepreneurship, you have very poor days, you feel down, and you wonder what's happening. But now that I think of it, I think the tough times are there to make you stronger and probably prepare you for the battles ahead. This journey would not have been possible with the support of my customers. No company exists without customers. With my supplier partners and distributor partners, I think my team, some of the members are here. I think they are the reason I'm presenting here today. Actually, it's not my success story, it is their success story. They are just turned out to be good. And it would not have been possible without their hard work, determination and faith in us. And a big thank you to their families because they've been understanding while their better half has been at work. So some of my photographs of my team, my family, I would want to thank my friends, family. Om Prakash Kilaji sir is here, who's been very supportive of me since I moved to Aurangabad. A lot of my support family, especially to my wife Pearlie. You know, while I embarked on a professional journey, my son Kirat was also born around the same time in 2009. So while she took care of the personal side of bringing him up, she allowed me to focus on the business. Right? And she manages my entire social front. I am not the social guy. She takes care of all the social engagement. Thank you all for a very patient hearing.
Thank you, Sandeep sir. May I request a couple of questions from the audience, if it is.
Good evening, sir. I would like to know the logic behind the name Mrs. Foodright.
Okay, so basically for us the target audience was a lady who wants to prepare the right food for her family. So we want to give her the products which will help her make the right food for her family. So she is Mrs. Foodright.
I will request Shri C.P. Tripathi sir, Dr. Deshpande and Mr. Vaidya on the dais, please. And I will request Mr. C.P. Tripathi sir to speak few words.
A very good evening. Thank you, Sandeep, for giving a very elaborate description from your childhood up to present when you are running a profitable company. I've known his father, Mr. Asha Singh, here for quite some time, a veteran of industry, who is a graduate of 1953. Probably amongst the crowd there will be very few who will be born before 53. He did his graduation from Indian Institute of Mining and Metallurgy, Dhanbad. As he narrated his life history, you would realize that he went to an elite background of education. Mayo College, normally ordinary people don't go. Doon School, ordinary people don't go. But the touching point is that he has very clearly narrated how he went low, changing from Mayo to Doon, and this happens with many students who go to Doon College. And then bouncing back. That is the biggest characteristic that you will find in his life. He has bounced back, and then, as he very rightly pointed out, that if you do one thing right, then your self-confidence returns, and then you can build your career thereafter itself. Another very important point which for youngsters to learn is that he said that earlier he was working since his father was driving him. But last time his father only told him that I am disappointed, which means that he had very high expectations he put it a negative thing in a very positive way. But look at the other side, which he stated very, very clearly, that when you are working by being prodded by somebody, your approach is different. When you take that role on yourself, then probably you are a self-ignited source, and it is like a nuclear reaction has started in yourself, and that doesn't stop thereafter. So therefore, this is the biggest learning for all of us, that how you become self-ignited. And once you are that, you see his Kharagpur career. He was working in so many areas and he still maintained a brilliant record as a student. Then going to IIM, working in areas as bad as Balia, Gorakhpur. Some of you may not know what kind of situations are there. So he has worked there, and then he has come to Mumbai. In industry also, he has shown how much he has struggled in spite of the family support, in spite of all good things happening. So resilience is the most important thing which I learned from this presentation, that he was all through resilient. He stayed positive throughout, which he has stated very clearly. And I think it's a great learning for all of us, Sandeep, from what you have described about your life, that how you have shaped up yourself, and even we seniors have a lot to learn, that how you stay positive. Anybody would have gone into that situation where he could never come back, but you every time came back. And came back so laughingly, which is admirable. So I really thankful to you for having taken the time and come here and given us this opportunity to know about you and the family as well in more detail. And also that today we have in Shembra a very successfully running industry which is having the capacity to have 2,000 tons per month food production. Thank you very much.
Now I will request Tripadi Sahib to present a moment or two, Mr. Sandeep Singh. Well, probably this session of Rare Share is the most unique one, because before a formal speech began, we learned a good management lesson, that is called patience. There are a lot of nice upcoming Rare Shares are there. Social entrepreneur Dr. Ravindra Kolde, who worked a lot in Medghat. Mr. Girish Wagh, who heads a good position here in Tata Motors. Mrs. Ashwini Om Deshpande, she is the founder director for iPhone Design. She is from Aurangabad. And we will have another unique session of young startups, those who did a good startup here in Aurangabad. I am moving to vote of thanks, my formal vote of thanks on behalf of AMA to the college authorities, Mr. Sandeep Singh, all the students, my media friends, and the entire audience here. Thank you very much. Officially declaring the session is over. Thank you.